Yes, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. I don't know, it's a pleasure to be back, as always. Always a pleasure to be back. I don't know how to describe this, but it is what it is. At least forewarned is forearmed, and forewarned all of you that what our absence here would mean or what would have caused our absence here. And it's basically what it was, and nothing more, nothing different, nothing unique. Basically, like I pre-informed you that I will be absent because I expected an internet shutdown. Unfortunately for me, it came much earlier than I had anticipated. I almost scrambled myself into coming on live to brief you about that, but I was unable to make that happen. So, anyways, it is what it is. We are back. Quite, I do not know whether to say in a disappointed mode. It's a bit of a mixed feelings. Uh, I come with mixed feelings because because Arsenal dropped points, Man United won, and AFCON final is getting underway. So perhaps we'll be able to catch that, So we'll see what happens in the coming couple of days. But yeah, I thought tomorrow would have been too late. And yesterday and an hour ago would have been too early. So I decided why not come on at least in these at least for a couple of minutes to have a brief chat about what's happened ever since then, what has been going on. I missed a lot of football. If I'm being honest, I missed the semifinals of the AFCON in this internet shutdown. I missed the third place playoff, which Nigeria won by 4 goals to 2. So really, a lot has been happening. A lot has been happening. So I missed all of that action because of the internet shutdown. As many of you well know, that internet is the cornerstone of everything that I do in terms of accessing information, accessing many other, a great many deal of other things. So it is what it is. So I missed plenty of that, and so I won't be able to speak to much detail. I missed the Carabao Cup semi-finals. Those were played on Tuesday and Wednesday. Um, Basically, in the last couple, in the next coming days, I'll be playing catch up. I'll simply be playing catch up with. I'll be simply playing catch up. In regards to what has transpired over the last 4 days, because that's been the situation for me at the internet blackout in Uganda. So I guess that is pretty much explained for all of you that have been wondering why was I absent for the last 4 days. And yeah, it's basically due to the internet shutdown that happened in Uganda due to the elections. Uganda on Thursday, the 15th of January, went to the polls to elect their new leaders. That has been done. Whether you agree or disagree with the results, the process in itself is done to a certain extent, and there's a lot to do. So I won't speak the politics because that's not why we are on this forum. It's a sports forum, it's a football forum. So it's good to be back. And yeah, basically for me, that's it. So we're back and rolling, and I hope in the next couple of days we'll be able to catch up well enough on regards to whatever it is that we missed from the world of sport, while also keeping in pace with the current affairs or with the concurrent affairs. For example, we know that the UEFA Champions League does return. It does return. It does return in midweek. That will be Kamau. Hi, Kamau. Good to have you on the broadcast. Where are you joining us from, Mr. Kamau? Apologies, I'm just having something checked out before we get to the conversation. So, hi, how are you doing? Your name sounds Kenyan. It's synonymous with Kenyans. Are you from Kenya, Mr. Kamau? So, guys, let's just have a chit chat. Where are you joining us from? Let me know. How have you been? Where are you joining us from? How are you? I'm all right. Oh no, I'm Nigerian. Okay, okay. Good to know you're Nigerian. Are you currently in Nigeria or living out of Nigeria? Are you from Igbo State? I oftentimes, not oftentimes, but on a couple of occasions, I've had people on the forum saying they are from Igbo State. Joseph Mendoza. Hi, Joseph. How are you doing, my brother? Sup? Where are you joining us from? Lyle Cupido says, are we, my bro? How are you doing? Good to have you on the broadcast. Where are you joining us from? Joseph is doing good. Thank you so much. Where are you joining us from? Guys, so for me, in the last couple of days or 4 days, I mean, this happened when on Tuesday. Actually, on Tuesday, that was Tuesday when Tuesday the 13th, was it? Yes, most probably Tuesday, the 13th of January at 6 p.m. East African time or at 1800 hours East African time. That's when eventually or officially was sent into this sort of internet blackout. And so we've been offline for all that time because of the reasons that I explained to you, because of the elections that went on. But during our absence, and you know the funny thing about this is that Jesus Christ. I want to say that during those last couple of days, it's not that okay. The entirety of Ghana was switched off, but some people would ask, could were able to, stay to remain accessing internet. How they managed to do that, I'm not too sure. Uh, I'm not too sure. So, but I mean, they had it their way, and congratulations to them. Um, Forgive me. But anyways, during our absence, like I said, the Africa Cup of Nations came closer and closer to the finishing line with the third place playoff done today, in which Nigeria won that 4-2 on penalties that proceeded a goalless draw in normal time. So that fixture was played out today. For those of you, I'm sure majority of you have been catching up on that. I hope Pedri was here to give us a snapshot of what his feelings were or what his impressions were on the tournament itself. It does climax officially tomorrow at 11 p.m. Sorry, at 10 p.m. East African time, when the hosts Morocco take on the 2021 one-time champions of Africa in Senegal. That means Senegal versus Morocco. Morocco last won the competition back in 1976. Like I said, I did not get to watch the semi-finals, but I do know that Senegal beat Egypt by goal to nil. That goal from Sadio Mane in the 78th minute was enough for Senegal to knock out Egypt, while Nigeria shared the spoils in a goalless draw with Morocco, and that one went to penalties, which Morocco won by 4 goals to 2. We know for a fact that Morocco, in a certain way, have gotten away with certain decisions during the course of the campaign, but it's not to say that this was a poor team being carried on. They did their work. Some decisions did not look pretty in the face of the competition, in the face of football. on the continent. They did not look pretty whatsoever, but it is what it is. Usually when you're at home or when you're the host, trust me, there are certain advantages that you get. Now, and it's not to say that you get all the advantages on merit. That's the nature of the sport. That sometimes you get lucky, that certain decisions get called in your way that ordinarily shouldn't be or wouldn't be, or that you get certain favors, or perhaps you'd say a slap on the wrist, or perhaps one could say turning a blind eye in a moment. It may not be intentional. Sometimes it does feel intentional for the blatant decisions that you may experience in some aspects. So, for example, I, for one, took really note of that penalty that should have been awarded to Tanzania at the round of 16, and then the penalty that should have been awarded to Cameroon at the quarterfinals. At the time, both games were still at 1-0. So I took very serious note of those, and for me, it was a bit of a pain point in comparison to how effectively the video assistant referee system had been used in the previous edition of the Africa Cup of Nations. So I found that quite painful. But anyways, it is what it is, like I said. So anyways, to the Premier League, action was on today. I managed to watch 2 games. I do not think I regret missing the Arsenal game. It ended in a goalless draw. That's another opportunity squandered by Arsenal. That's 2 occasions in which Manchester City and plus Aston Villa have dropped points and Arsenal failed to capitalize. Now, last weekend, Aston Villa shared the spoils in a goalless draw with Crystal Palace, while Manchester City also shared the spoils in a 1-1 draw with Brighton and Hove Albion. Arsenal, instead of capitalizing on that to increase or improve on their point advantage, guess what happened? What happened was, instead of using that advantage, they got caught by Liverpool. They were equally held into a goalless draw, so they never leveraged on that. Today, Manchester United, in the early kickoff in the Manchester derby, beat up against Manchester City by 2-0. It should have been much more than that. I was able to watch that game end to end, and as they wait for Aston Villa to play Everton tomorrow. Now, regardless of what happens tomorrow, that's for Aston Villa to take up or to reduce that point gap. But still, Arsenal couldn't leverage on that to win and make the point gap 9. So they simply put it to 7. And I do not know what must be running through those Arsenal players' minds, but I must say it must be, in a way, psychologically disappointing for themselves. It must be psychologically disappointing for themselves, really. If indeed that is the case. So for me, I find it's, I mean, this is not to say that it's straightforward, that once your opponent loses, then you win. No, it's not straightforward. That will pretty much know. But in course of winning the Premier League title, and I've said this very many times, or many times, or any other league title, is that every time your direct competitors drop points, you must find a way to leverage that, Now, if it happens 5 times out of 38 times in a season, at least use the 3 to do that. But for 2 consecutive games, Arsenal have not done that. And yes, they were dominant in that game, which I did not get to watch, but I managed to look at the statistics and perhaps to read a few comments here and there in regards to getting a snapshot of the picture of what the impressions were from the game itself. But I must say, it's disappointing. I'm sure Arsenal fans will relate to this, or if you're an Arsenal fan out there, you must relate to this in some way, form or shape, of how really it is disappointing that on another day, on another given opportunity, you still could not make that count. And whereas Manchester City were made to look shambolic, it does not give you any hope or any confidence whatsoever that other competitors other than Manchester City are going to keep slipping up. Because let's face it, Chelsea won. Yes, Liverpool dropped points, but United won. You never know. Newcastle win tomorrow, Aston Villa win tomorrow, and suddenly we're having a whole different story, So, and I remember as soon as this happened, as soon as this happened, as soon as Manchester City, no, Liverpool were playing, and I was having a conversation with somebody. They were saying, "Oh, it's done and dusted," and I was telling them the math is simple. If you Manchester City, the mathematics for this particular Premier League title is still simple. Why? For example, take an example of today. Arsenal could not leverage on Man City's loss. They could only draw. That means only a point added. Let's face it. Next game, Arsenal up against Manchester United on Super Sunday for the Premier League. Very difficult game. It's going to be at the Emirates, but anything can happen. It's Manchester United. In any case, that result of them beating up against Manchester City should be a very, very critical indicator to Arsenal for what's to come for them on Sunday. Now, I'm not saying they're going to flat out lose, but whatever the result could be there, Manchester City are going to be somewhere lacking. In fact, by the time that game is played, Man City would have already played. So that means Arsenal will even be under more pressure because chances are Man City may have already reduced that 7-point gap to only 4. So if it is reduced to 4, we know that Man City still have to play Arsenal at the Etihad Stadium, and assuming Man United were to beat Arsenal. Again, these are mere assumptions, but they are assumptions based on the fact that it's possible that they could happen that way. So assuming Arsenal lose to Man United on Sunday, as bad as that sounds, it's doomsday for Arsenal. Why? Because then you have Man City away and you lose that game, suddenly the mathematics is reduced to 1 point. What is it to say that you're going to beat up against Newcastle at the Emirates Stadium? Are you pretty confident you're going to beat up against Chelsea at the Emirates Stadium? It could be any other team against whom you drop points. In any case, look at Nottingham Forest, a team that has been, I don't know, as poor as you can have it in the last 5 games prior to their victory against West Ham, which they won by 2-1. So really, when you do the math and look at it in that impression, then clearly Arsenal fans will know with an absolute fact that the title race is far from done, that nothing is done, nothing is sealed yet. A lot can still happen in as far as in as far as things go for this particular a season. So they'll know that anything can happen. Anything can happen. And Manchester City will continue to be lacking in and around, the circles of this league title, waiting to snap up the opportunity. And the last thing, by the way, Arsenal fans, be careful of this. And this may not entirely have to do everything with Man City, but it's really, really dangerous to go on this sort of trajectory of results into a dangerous zone of the season. And what's that dangerous zone? That's March, April. That's where titles are lost. That's where titles are won. That's where titles are lost, And Arsenal, using the experience of the last 3 seasons, they must be knowing that. We do not need to explain it to them. So they will know that for a fact. So whether it's Aston Villa that climbs up the ropes, whether it's Manchester City that catches up with you, you must be looking over your shoulders going into that space. If you do not maintain the distance or even create an even bigger points gap between the two sides. Like I said, I won't speak to the details or to the facts of the match because I did not watch the game. But like I said, I'll have to catch a couple of highlights here and there for me to be able to give you a full picture. So, the Manchester Derby. Now, I do not remember the last time Man United outplayed Man City the way they did today. Now, I don't know. Statistics will show that Manchester City dominated possession to the tune of 68% compared to Manchester United 32%. But I kid you not, it never felt that way. Particularly in the first half, it never felt that way. it never felt that way. You know, you always felt that it was Manchester United in the driving seat, and other statistics other than that, other than possession, will show you that. And I remember somebody was saying before, when the game was still virgin, and they were saying, "Oh, Man United dominating possession," and for a certain period in the game, and I remember saying to them, "Possession doesn't count for anything. You may as well have 98% of it, but if you do not put that ball in the back of the net, it will all be for nothing." And guess what? With that limited possession of 32%, Manchester United had the better XG. Now, XG in itself is nonsense, but let's not mention it. Okay, let's go to shots. They had 11 attempts on goal with 7 on target, compared to Manchester City's 7 on goal with only 1 on target. Now, by halftime, that game could have easily been 3-0 in favor of Manchester United. Of course, they did score through Bryan Mbeumo and Patrick Dogu in the second half, but Harry Maguire hit the crossbar from a corner kick. Bruno Fernandes and I think, was it Amadou Diallo? I stand to be corrected. But two Manchester United goals were ruled out for offside. That's only in the first half, in as far as I can remember. And by the way, what a shitty job Anthony Taylor did in officiating that job. I thought he could have done better handling that derby. At some point, it felt like the game was going to run out of his hands, but he managed to sort of recuperate himself and get his shit together. But I thought his officiating was a bit lacking. So, United had the best chances of the game. Their chances they missed. Their chances, their opportunities they did not capitalize on. I remember them winning the ball back high up the pitch and Bruno Fernandes trying to play in Bryan Mbeumo, who wanted to wait the ball to get to his feet, and then the Manchester City defender intercepts. I do not remember who exactly it was. And Bruno Fernandes could not help. He could not hide his frustration with Mbeumo. And they sort of had a little bit of a spat at it, a snafu between those, between themselves about the frustration of that moment. Bruno Fernandes looking absolutely displeased, and Bryan Mbeumo trying to defend himself in regards to how the pass did not get to him, the intended target, but it was what it was. Then there comes the second half, and you thought, oh, maybe Man City will sort of find their footing in this. Now, as soon as I looked at the Manchester City backline, first of all, I was really, really concerned, because when you have Rico Ruiz, Koshanov, you had Nathan Ake and Alenye. Now, Koshanov and Alenye were playing in centre back. I thought, the moment I saw that, I said to myself, Manchester United, this is the best opportunity for you to beat up against Man City. And they indeed went on to do so. But Erling Haaland never had a sniff. There's no single moment in time that you felt that he was threatening that Manchester United defense. The only time you wanted to have a physical go at it, Maguire dragged him to the floor. Impressive game from Harry Maguire. Then, like I said, in the second half, a beautiful goal. Bryan Mbeumo scoring in the 65th minute. Bruno Fernandes providing the assist. It was a set piece. It was a free kick for Man City on the other side. Man United defend well. They win the ball back, and on they go to a counter. Typical Man United kind of goal. Typical Man United football. Go for a run for it on the counter, score a goal, and that's basically what it was. And then Patrick Dogu, in the 76th minute, scores but before he scores, Mason Mount thought, was that before or after? No, that was before Mason Mount's moment. So he scores in the 76th minute to make it 2-0 for Man United. And again, it was well deserved. They deserve to be in that kind of lead. Who was the assist provider? I don't think it was Fernandes, because that ball came up from the right-hand side. It was Matthias Cunha. Yes, it was Matthias Cunha who scored. Who provided the assist in the 76th minute. And it was 2-0 thanks to Patrick Dogu getting there before Rico Royce. I thought Rico Royce looked really, really poor in today's game, to be honest. And I do not know why in the many changes Pep Guardiola did, Rico Royce wasn't withdrawn, but he is the manager. So, and then in the stoppage time, second minute of stoppage time, Mason Mount thought he had scored. Okay, he scored, but that goal was ruled out for offside in the build-up to that goal. And then Amadou Diallo hit the crossbar, sorry, the upright from a little bit of a close range. Again, it was a Man United counter-attack. They go in, and Amadou Diallo could not apply the finishing touch. It was a bit unlucky, just as much as Casemiro had been unlucky because he tried to be a little smart. The goalkeeper, Donnarumma, was already done and dusted on the floor, and he tried to go for a flick, which, given his height, he managed to put his both, I think, hand and leg to it, and it never went in. So Man United had so many chances to score. That game could have easily ended 7-0 for Man United. But like I told you, they had 3 goals ruled out for offside. They hit the woodwork, the crossbar, and the upright on 2 different occasions. So, and then I think Donnarumma had about 2 brilliant saves in that game. So in fact, he had 5 saves. So really, that paints for you the kind of picture for what the kind of game that was for Man City. But it was a poor display. But speaking of Man City, they're doing everything within their power to upend the scales, to set themselves up for a very, very good second part of the season. Why? Because they've already landed Antoine Semenyo. They did reach an agreement with Crystal Palace on a deal worth about £20 million to sign McGee from Crystal Palace, and so much so to the frustration of Oliver Glasner, who is not sure whether he will see out the remainder of the season with who is not sure will see out the remainder of the season given his frustrations. Now, as he's selling their captain a day before the game, which was his frustration, Jean-Philippe Mateta is having positive conversations with Juventus over a potential move. Now, we know that talks between Jean-Philippe Mateta and Jean-Philippe Mateta and Crystal Palace over a new contract fell through. They fell through. So really, it fell through, and that's where the situation becomes a bit, untenable. So, anyways, we'll just have to wait and see. It is the January transfer window, and Man City couldn't be more serious. So this revelation came out yesterday that Man City were in the process of finalizing a deal to sign McKay from Crystal Palace for £20 million plus bonuses and sell on percentage clause, 5.5-year contract already agreed between Manchester City and the player. Intensified pursuit after Joško Gvardiol and Ruben Dias injuries, so Crystal Palace had to accept or lose the 25-year-old as a free agent in the summer. And this is a player that Liverpool tried to sign in the summer, but they could not sanction the move on deadline day. Crystal Palace, that is, they seem to have mentally prepared themselves to lose him for free, but maybe Steve Parish, the chairman of Crystal Palace, looked at things and said, no, we'd rather get something out of this. And then so we know Arsenal are interested. It's never a complete transfer window without Arsenal being linked with the move for a defender. We know Arsenal had interest in McGee. But again, I put it out there. I remember when we were discussing that news, and I said, in my opinion, if you're McGee, what attracts you to go to Arsenal when you know there's William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes, the main architects of that team? When you know that Yuan Timber is up there at right back, Carafield is there at left back. Now, with Ben White waiting in the flanks or in the shadows. And whereas a recruitment of McKay could have simply meant that one of the maybe Ben White is let go. Again, that still doesn't guarantee your starting slot unless Mikel Arteta was convincing you that, you know what, I'm going to play with the back three and you're going to be part of that. So it is what it is. Then you have Leeds United making inquiries about Jürgen Strand-Larsson of Wolverhampton Wanderers. Interest expressed to Wolves, but no offer so far or guarantee it develops. Given the predicament of given the predicament of Wolverhampton Wanderers, you'd understand why Jürgen Strand-Larsson would want to move. So it is what it is, you know. It is what it is. So, anyways, guys. So for the Manchester Derby, congratulations. Football Royale says, bro, hi, how are you? For the Manchester Derby, congratulations, Michael Carrick. You outwitted Pep Guardiola. You did everything right. Substitutions were spot on. You did not try anything too hard. I mean, for the first time, I saw certain patterns of play in terms of playing out of the back, and it looked impressive for Man United. I mean, they didn't do it all game, but for the few moments, for the few scenarios in which I watched them do it, it looked okay. It looked nice to see, you know. It looked nice to see. So yeah, I hope they carry on that and build. Now, I do not know whether his performance will sort of turn the heads of the Manchester United's management cohort of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Omar Barreda, Jason Wilcox, who are all in the stands. Sir Alex Ferguson looked really, really pleased and happy with what was happening. With what was happening, but yeah, I remember somebody saying something like Ferguson had been reborn, more like because of what happened. But yeah, very, very interesting stuff. Very, very interesting stuff there in regards to what they were able to do. I mean, okay, away from the Manchester Derby, quickly into the other results. Like I said, guys, we intended to be here for a short while. In the other results, Crystal Palace got beat by apologies. Yeah, today being match day 22, Crystal Palace got beat Sunderland by 2-1 at the Stadium of Light, while Chelsea beat up against Brentford by 2-0. Joao Pedro scored a brilliant goal, and Cole Palmer's 76-minute penalty were enough to make sure that Liam Rossignol kicked off his Chelsea career in the Premier League with a victory, having suffered, a defeat in between there in the EFL Cup. That was against Arsenal for the quarterfinals. For the semi-final first leg. They lost that game by 3-2 with Ben White, Victor Gyökeres, and Martin Zubimendi on target for the Arsenal, while Alejandro Garnacho scored a brace for Chelsea. Meanwhile, he scored a brace against was it Cardiff City? Yes, Cardiff City at the quarterfinals, who they knocked out, beating them by 3-1. I can see Football Royale says, did you see the Martinelli miss? No, I did not see it. I won't lie, I did not watch that game due to reasons that I've explained. Cedric says, hi everyone, Oliotia, how are you, brother? I'm all right. I'm hoping for the best now that we are back online. Internet has been restored. I do not know for how long, guys. I cannot guarantee that the situation is fully back to normal. We can only live day by day. So I can't promise you with absolute guarantees that I'll be here in the morning at 9 a.m. Sorry, tomorrow is a Sunday. We do not do Sunday broadcasts, but I cannot guarantee that I'll be here tomorrow night to do the broadcast. Why? Because internet was off. Are you from Uganda? Yes, football. Yeah, that's where I'm from. So because I can't give you any guarantees, I will have to take day by day, and see what happens with the internet. So just wish me the best in that regard. Anyways, Leeds are beat up against Fulham by goal to nil, while Liverpool shared the spoils with Burnley in a 1-1 draw. Now, this is a game that Liverpool ordinarily should have won, but even the first leg in itself was not easy because Liverpool won that first leg by goal to nil, a penalty from Mohamed Salah in the 95th minute of that game, one of the 3 points for Liverpool. In the reverse fixture, it was a 1-1 draw. It was Florian Wirtz who scored a brilliant goal, by the way, to give Liverpool the lead, while Edwards scored what turned out to be the equalizer with 2 goal line clearances from Leeds. Liverpool had a goal ruled out for offside. I think that goal had been scored by Hugo Ekitike. Then they had so many close moments, but I thought Martin Dubravka did really, really well in that game. He did well for Burnley. I do not know whether he deserved man of the match, but he looked impressive, really. He was alert, at least. And then, like I told you, Sunderland beat Crystal Palace by 2-1. Crystal Palace took the lead in that game. And Sunderland, through Jeremy Pino, while Sunderland got the equalizer through Leafy. The equalizer came 3 minutes after Crystal Palace had taken the lead, while Bobby scored the other that turned out to be the match winner. Tottenham Hotspur, once again at home, they got beat by West Ham United, beating them by 2-0. Somerville scored in the 15th minute, while Christian Romero restored parity in the 64th minute. And in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, Callum Wilson scored the goal that won West Ham all 3 points. While in the late kickoff, like I told you, I did not watch this game. That was the game between Arsenal and Nottingham Forest, ended in a goalless draw. But I'll get to look at the highlights and more opinions and formulate perhaps a little more of my personal opinion in regards to that game. If you can watch that handball from Ola Aina from Forest against Arsenal, and tell me if that's not a penalty. Well, again, I had a little bit of commentary of the radio on that, and like I said, I'll take your advice. I'll first watch it and give you my honest opinion about it. But sometimes you get these decisions, sometimes you do not get, and on your way to winning a Premier League title, if you want to win it, you ought to grind it out. Arsenal should have found other ways to win. It's not easy. It's the Premier League. Every game is difficult in its own way. So, anyways, tomorrow that action does continue with Wolves up against Newcastle at 5 p.m., while Aston Villa will take on Everton at 7:30 p.m. Brighton will come on Monday at 11 p.m. East African time. So that's what's up for the Premier League. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, Man United fans, congratulations. I know you'll be speaking about that for quite a bit, given that you do not have engagements in Europe, where the UEFA Champions League does return, with Arsenal having an engagement against Inter Milan. I think possibly on Tuesday. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, Tuesday. Yeah, around there. Anyways, Real Madrid back to winning ways after sacking Xabi Alonso, and Alvaro Abiola are taking over. They won their game by 2-0 against Levante. Kylian Mbappe and Raúl Asensio are the ones on target for Real Madrid. So Mallorca beat up against Bilbao 3-2, while Osasuna beat Rio Oviedo by 3-2, and Real Betis beat Villarreal by 3-2. Okay. But in regards to what's to come, okay, maybe the Bayern Munich results. Bayern Munich beat up against RB Leipzig by 5-1. I mean, Bayern Munich in the German Bundesliga literally score for fun. When you look at that tally of results. Hi, Pedri, how are you doing, my brother? Good to have you back on the podcast. I thought earlier on we were speaking about, the AFCON third place playoff, and I thought you would give us insights. Congrats on the presidential election. There's no congratulations there, my guy. If you're familiar with the context of Ugandan politics and what the case is, there's no congratulations there. But thanks. I understand what you mean or where you come from, what spot you come from. Speaking of Bayern Munich's scores, I mean, they've scored 71 goals in 18 games. I mean, isn't that crazy? And really, they've only conceded 14, but 71 goals. The teams that have scored the second most goals is, I think, Eintracht Frankfurt, who have scored 38. Now, I don't know how you're going to describe that, but it is what it is. Apparently, he has been in power since 1986. My point exactly. Thank you for catching up quite easily or quickly. But yeah, that's my point exactly. Senegal, Morocco tomorrow predictions. I mean, Senegal very strong, will be defensively solid, but I don't know, because I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist here, but my gut feeling tells me that there's a way this competition is being cut out for Morocco to win. Now, and I do not say that everything has been done in their favor to win, for them to win, but they just feel like they're in that moment, they're in that zone, There's something about them that even on a bad day, you still feel they're going to have the advantage. They're going to have the edge over the opponent. It's just that, of course, it's the home advantage. They never die. They never die attitude, because you're home. There's a lot at stake for you. And let's not forget, remember, they are going to be co-hosts of the World Cup at 2030. So that also comes within somewhere in terms of their football branding, their country marketing. So the more they stay in the competition or even go on to win it, it taps sort of into that. So yeah, it feels like they are going through everything, even if they're playing bad. It feels like it's made for them somewhere, somehow. Indeed, exactly. You remember the game against Tanzania? I remember I did not watch that game fully. I could only catch highlights. But again, it felt close, because it never felt the kind of game where you had two teams that were miles apart, even in the context of their own strength. But they scrapped themselves out of that. Tanzania should have been awarded a penalty, in my opinion, in that game. But again, sometimes you get the decisions, sometimes you do not. Sometimes we perform the autopsy that should have been a penalty, and maybe even the officials agree after what's done has been done. And you remember the game against Cameroon in the quarterfinals. Brandon Mbomo should have been awarded a penalty when that game was still 1-0. He gets, literally smacked in the box, and that penalty is not awarded. That for me felt a bit shady, because AFCON and AFCON officials have been quite fairly, by mile, very effective in using the video assistant referee. And what for me impressed me the most, and this dates back to the previous competition, the AFCON, was that every time a referee was sent to the monitor, it was not a sort of an unwritten rule that once you go to the monitor, you must change your decision. So I found that they used it so effectively well that when I compared both words between the AFCON that we had in the previous edition of 2023 that was played in January 2024 in comparison to this one, you feel that there's been a decline in official performances or referee performances and the usage of VAR. But it is what it is. And then, I'm pretty sure Senegal can cause an upset easily. They have enough quality in all departments of the team. I think it's the best final we could have gotten. Very tight game. Now, any team that gets to a final is capable of winning it. Whether you came in as an underdog, whether you are a dark horse, whatever the case is. And let's face it, none of them here are dark horses. For those of you that care to remember, during the early stages of the competition, when I was speaking about who are the favorites, Senegal and Morocco, those are some of the names that came up, in our conversations. And of course, we went on to mention the likes of Nigeria, that we couldn't write off Egypt. Look where they got, how far they got. They were in the semifinals. So really, it simply further cements what our opinions were at the start of the tournament. That Senegal remain a very, very strong opponent or a strong side. Ever since they won it in 2021, they remain a very, very strong side. They have those experienced players, and their head coach who replaced Aliou Cisse. His name is eluding me. Is Papethio. Yes, Papethio is quite an impressive guy. It's crazy to think about. Technically, the next AFCON is next year. Yeah, basically that's it, and that's why for me I was pleased to hear that that we made this change to make it a 4-year tournament. And I know some people now. Some people have argued against that, but I feel they've not been objective enough, other than the argument of we're trying to shift our ways or our culture, the footballing culture of that tournament, to suit the narrative or the model of the Europeans. I mean, for me, there's no wrong in benchmarking good practices and take them on. But for me, the AFCON has always felt like a never-ending cycle of things, because you play this competition, as soon as it's done, by the time we get to the match international break, we're already talking about AFCON qualifiers for the next round, for the next edition. Now, guess what? You're talking about the one of 2027, that it's literally next year. But remember, AFCON will be played in 2027 and also in 2028. Why? Because we have to play 2027 edition will be the final edition of the 2-year cycle. Now, to begin what should be a 4-year cycle, we'll have to play AFCON 2028. So there will be an edition in 2028 that will be played. That edition, after that edition, then we'll go into the 4-year cycle, and then the next edition will come in 2032. Some of the reasons for that is, again, to try and avoid the coincidence of the year where you have World Cup and AFCON. But also, this has also happened before, when AFCON was going away from even years to odd years, because you remember in 2010, we had AFCON, which was won by Egypt, and then in the same year, we had the World Cup. Now, after that, they decided to avoid playing AFCON in the same year with the World Cup. Let's change the cycle from even years to odd years. Once that was changed, the next edition was in 2012, and that was the one that was won by Zambia. I think they beat Ivory Coast, and was it 9-8 on penalties? So that was hosted in what? Was that in Angola? And then the subsequent year, 2013, we played AFCON. That AFCON was won by Nigeria, who beat Burkina Faso in the finals by 0-0. I don't remember who was the host. Was it South Africa? Maybe. Yes, I think it was South Africa who were the hosts for 2013. So that something like that has happened before. So this time around, expect it in 2027 and 2028 as we switch to that cycle. But yeah, the final in itself will be a very, very tight game between Morocco and Senegal. Senegal can be defensively solid. They have the players that can hurt you going forward, and everything to do with that. Who is the most underrated manager right now? Underrated manager right now in world football or in the AFCON? Give me a bit of more context. I would be happy with a 3-year World Cup. It's perfect. Again, I mean, anything is possible. Some of us are slow to adapt to change, but anything can be decided. But again, for me, I'd want to keep things as is in the 4-year cycle. Why? Because I want those players to get a bit of rest, because ordinarily, what you for example, I go back to particularly last season. I don't know if you do remember last season, there were so many long-term injuries. ACL injuries, especially at the start of the season, were quite rampant. And for me, part of my justification of the so many injuries that did come in the previous campaigns, I had everything to do with a plenty of football that was played. Now, in the post-COVID era, games were cramped up. People played the season and completed it. Went and played Euros, After Euros, we started a new season. Halfway it, we went for the World Cup, returned and completed the season. Soon, this side we had AFCON. The other side, soon they had Euro qualifiers for which they played Euro 2024. After that, you have in between there, you have, of course, the UEFA Nations League. Next year, for example, is World Cup. Now, just imagine when you bring it into a 3-year cycle, that means you'd play Euros, not skip a year at some point, and then play the World Cup. So I'm all for these players having a bit of a rest, a break of the game at some point. Then you say 4 years is too long, 2 years too close, 3 is perfect. I understand what you mean. I'm trying to find a common ground or balance between the two. But for me, I mean, I have a feeling that the 4 years, I don't know if you've noticed, or it only happens to me, but I'm sure it happens to majority of football fans out there. There's that anticipation, there's that eagerness towards the World Cup because it takes so long to happen, and we know that we have to wait for it 4 years, So we have that fine appreciation for it because it takes that long. And whereas some people are of the view that its expansion from 32 teams to 48 kind of dilutes the competition, I mean, it's not to say the argument doesn't hold water, but there's two sides to the coin, because, I mean, there are countries that will never get to the World Cup, let's be honest. But with this expanded version of it, you get that opportunity. I mean, not that it should be given for every country to have a taste of the World Cup, but it sure does feel right or feel nice for your country to make it to the World Cup. Now, of course, we do not want to dilute the competition of the tournament, and you get and you get there and get beat in all games. But I mean, even during the 32 kind of edition, you had teams have their AWS handed to them on the turf. So, excuse the language there. But the point is that inclusion of more games does not necessarily hurt the competition. In AFCON, I would say Nigeria's Eric Chele. Are you talking about the head coaches? Because, I mean, he's been impressive. But I mean, I don't think I've looked around and been disappointed with majority of managers at the AFCON. Why? Because a part of me took satisfaction in knowing that teams got where they got on merit, and whoever exited the competition at every stage was deserving of exiting the competition at that exact stage. Maybe Gabon had question marks. Of course, they literally kicked everyone out and suspended the national team for those poor performances. But yeah, Eric Chele of Nigeria has been impressive. And I know Nigerians have been disappointed that they couldn't make it to the final, having been losing finalists in the previous edition. You say, I like him a lot, very humble, very efficient, and loving coach. Everyone in Nigeria likes him. From what I heard, my favorite highlight of AFCON. Okay. Anyways, guys, allow me wrap it here. It's been nice catching up, given following those 4 days of absency without us being here. But tomorrow, do not miss out on that action that will be coming your way in the Premier League, in the Spanish La Liga. Like I told you, Barcelona will be in action tomorrow against Real Sociedad. That's in the Spanish La Liga. Celta Vigo will be up against Vallecano, Atletico de Madrid up against Deportivo Alves, Getafe against Valencia, Wolves against Newcastle, and Everton against Aston Villa in the Premier League. So we have the UEFA Champions League coming up soon, the subsequent week, but in the Italian Serie A, Parma against Genoa, Bologna at home against Fiorentina. Fiorentina trying to, and a resurgent Fiorentina were trying to survive relegation, fighting their way out of the ruins that they had to go through the first stanza of the campaign. And yeah, Torino at home against Roma, AC Milan against Lecce, things like that. Sorry, got bad internet currently on my side. I can hear you but not see you. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Oh, did you move? Are you like away on a trip or something? But wait, it's what? January. Anyway, it's mid-Jan. Festive season is long done, so I don't think you'd be away from home unless you're on a trip. But completely understandable. So, guys, Pedri, thank you so much for the chat. Kamau from Nigeria, uh, Lyle, uh, Cupido, Joseph Mendoza, Football Royal, Cedric, and every single one of you that has been part of the broadcast. Thank you so much. I thought I would do this for only 30 minutes, but we're almost 1 hour in. So it's 10 minutes to 2 a.m. in Uganda. Allow me wish you a blessed night. Let's catch up tomorrow. Bye-bye. If internet allows us. Pedro says, does it feel like New Year? Does it feel like New Year was yesterday? We're already halfway through. Yeah, it feels like New Year's was yesterday. I almost thought we are only done with the first week of January. I don't remember feeling this way about January. Oftentimes for me, January has always felt like it's 120 days as opposed to 31 days. But this one kind of feels like the perfect preview to February, which is oftentimes the shortest month on the calendar. But yeah, thank you so much, Pedri. Allow me, guys, wrap it up here and wish you a blessed night. If we continue to have internet, we'll continue to be here to do these broadcasts. If things change or take a nosedive, as they did, we'll let you know. Or if you do not see us, at least assume that will be the reason. But yeah, stay blessed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.